Almanac will continue in a moment.
Pope Innocent III had failed to wipe out the Cathars, a sect of heretics operating in southern France. Nevertheless, in 1231, his successor, Pope Gregory IX, institutes a plan to turn the full force of the new inquisitorial legal process against them. The Pope appoints a handful of priests and friars as inquisitors and sends them into the German and French countryside to root out religious criminals. Those heretics who refuse to recant their beliefs and continue to preach them will be burned at the stake.
Remember, if they failed, the heretics' soul would go to hell. The purpose of all of this is to save as many people as possible. But there are certain things that have to be done if lots of people are to be saved.
Pope Gregory soon learns that a good inquisitor is hard to find. The most enthusiastic are often fanatical and out of control. Conrad of Marburg, the most notorious of these early inquisitors, convinces Gregory IX that he has uncovered a secret German sect called Luciferians. Conrad's method of operation includes recruiting a lynch mob, arresting the suspected heretics, then offering them a choice: recant or be burned alive. Historians will discover that the Luciferians are pure fiction, an obsessive fantasy of Conrad's created to impress the Pope. The papal inquisitor in northern France is no better. A converted Cathar, Robert Le Bougre, rounds up groups of suspected heretics and holds boisterous public trials. In one devastating event, 183 Cathars are interrogated, sentenced, and burned alive in a single day. After years of outcry from French bishops, the Pope finally realizes that Robert is a dangerous extremist, removes him from office, and imprisons him.
Something had to be done. And there had to be somebody better at it than these ad hoc, personally devout, but utterly incompetent, and dangerous. Very dangerous people. And that is the moment when Gregory IX turns to the Dominican order.
Founded by St. Dominic in 1216, Dominicans are well suited to the job of inquisitor. Educated as theologians, they are accustomed to life on the road and to preaching against heresy. By the mid-13th century, Gregory IX sends forth dozens of Dominican inquisitors to seek out and prosecute Cathars, Waldensians, and other heretical groups. The pontiff formally announces to his bishops the coming of the inquisitors to the burgs and villages of France, Italy, Germany, and Spain.
We enjoin that you receive them kindly and treat them with honor by giving them such good advice, aid, and support in this office, and in other respects that they may be able to carry out the task entrusted to them.
Gregory IX is asking for much more in this letter than mere hospitality from his bishops. In their quest for heretics, the papal inquisitors will need to rely on inside information, rumors, and other intelligence gathered by an informal network of clerical informants working as spies.
Probably their best eyes and ears in the countryside were the parish clergy, because these are people who live in the villages, have relatives in the village, have their ears open for local gossip.
Like the hanging judges of the Old West, the inquisitors ride into town, usually accompanied by a notary or scribe to document the proceedings, perhaps a servant or bodyguard. The local priest gathers the townspeople together to hear their visitor preach on the sins and dangers of heresy. Once his sermon is finished, the inquisitor announces a period of grace when anyone who might be guilty of heresy can make a full confession and be assured of lenient treatment.
A person who thought he might be named or who had been a heretic and was having second thoughts had to operate within the period of grace, because if you confessed after the period of grace, say after you were aware an investigation of you had begun, that would count as being not as sincere a confession as if you had made it during the period of grace.
A few weeks later, the Inquisitor announces that the grace period is over and the more ominous Edict of Faith phase is about to begin. From this day forward, any accused person becomes subject to interrogation or arrest, and since all testimony is given in secret, the Inquisitor encourages all good citizens to denounce any neighbors they might suspect to be heretics.
The purpose of the General Inquisitions and the Edicts of Grace and Edicts of Faith were to get as many people out into the office of the Inquisitors as possible, and so they did use fear, they used terror, they used self-interest.
The Inquisitor must have incriminating testimony from at least 2 witnesses before he can move forward. Sometimes the targets of investigations have no idea they are in trouble until the day they are summoned.
Much of the evidence in inquisitorial procedure takes place before you know that there's an investigation going on. When you're brought in, that investigation is just about completed. I mean, it's quite opposite from a modern criminal trial.
Realizing the danger of false or malicious accusations, the Inquisitors do make an attempt to weed out lies from truth. When the accused is first brought forward, he or she is asked to list all enemies. If those names match any on the witness list, the Inquisitor is supposed to disregard that testimony. But the legal protections end there. The accused never learns the actual names of his accusers, or even the specifics of the accusation.
It was very difficult to prove your innocence once the Inquisitors have gotten hold of you.
Even suspects who confess to heresy can't be reconciled with the Church until they give names and information about other suspected heretics. If the accused balks, he risks a prison sentence and seizure of all his property.
If you're being uncooperative, the Inquisitors may reduce your food ration, they may chain you to the walls. So the primary mechanism for getting people to confess is simply to lock them away for protracted periods of time and have them think things over.
How do these Inquisitors go about their very secretive work? Some how-to manuals have survived, providing a fascinating historical glimpse into this era. One, called The Conduct of Inquiry Concerning Heretical Depravity, was written by retired Inquisitor Bernard Guy in 1324. Guy, whose exploits provided inspiration for the historical novel and film The Name of the Rose, presents dozens of case studies representing 17 years of first-hand experience in what he calls his personal crusade against heresy.
The purpose of the Inquisition is to destroy heresy. And to destroy heresy, we must destroy heretics. Bernard Guy, 1324.
Inquisitors really do think of themselves as a combat organization. They're quite aware that there are heretics and their sympathizers out there at large in the countryside, and they are highly motivated to get rid of them.
A later book, Directorium Inquisitorium, was written in 1376 by Inquisitor Nicholas Aymeric of Aragon. It describes the commitment and tenacity required of a 14th or 15th century inquisitor, and even includes a handy list of clever tricks used to fool suspects into confessing.
And one that I found very chilling was that when you sit there holding a little piece of parchment in your lap, looking down at it, and checking it as the person gives you his testimony. And eventually you can say, well, no, what you're telling me can't be true. I can see plainly that you're not telling me the truth. And what the suspect under interrogation thinks is you've got a copy of somebody else's deposition when you simply got a blank piece of parchment.
There was a powerful incentive on the part of sincere inquisitors to get to the truth